Hey everyone, it's Brandy and welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to be doing my November wrap up. This is pretty late. I think this is the latest that I have ever done a wrap up. But I will say that I filmed this and I ended up not being happy with the way it came out, or when I was done filming it I didn't feel like it was the best that it could be, so I decided to just scrap it and do it over again. And then last week I had vacation time off of work, so I decided to just take the week off completely, and I got some reading and stuff done instead of worrying about filming videos and getting that uploaded. So yeah, that's kind of why I've been MIA. For this wrap up, I want to start trying to do my wrap ups a little differently. So instead of going in chronological order, I want to try going from the lowest rating, from my lowest rated book that I read to my highest rated book. Starting at my lowest rated book, I gave one book a 2 out of 5 stars this month, and that was Accidental Daddy by R.R. Banks. This follows this girl who she moved from this small town. She's living with, I think, 3 roommates, and one of her roommates decides to throw this really big Halloween party, and she meets this guy randomly and she ends up going back to his hotel with him. And after that night they spend together, she finds out she's pregnant, and the story kind of takes off from there. I thought the concept sounded really interesting, but ultimately it wasn't really done well. I felt like it was such a focus. It focused on things that I didn't really care about. I wanted to see more of them coming back together after everything that had happened. Once he found out that, she had a baby and that the baby was his, I wanted to see their relationship progress from that point and, see how it moved from there. But we spent so much time focusing on everything else that was happening in the town and things that were going on in the girl's personal family life. And a big part that I like to see in these type of books is that absent parents, the absent father coming in and developing that relationship, not only with the woman who had the baby, but also developing that relationship with the child. And we don't really get to see that. And I think that might have been the biggest disappointment, because I was just like, this is part of the reason why I'm reading this, to get this, and it wasn't there. So like I said, it was okay, but it just definitely was not what I was wanting out of this. And I, like I said, gave this one a 2 out of 5 stars. So the next section of books that I have to talk about are my 3 out of 5 stars, and I have 3 of these, and I don't have any specific order that I would like to mention these in, so I'm just going to talk about these in the order that I read them. So the first one is Naughty Boss by Whitney G. And this book follows a girl who ends up going and working as a secretary to the CEO of a publishing company. The CEO, he has not had a lot of luck with competent secretaries, so he ends up asking this business partner to, he's basically get me somebody who can handle the work that I need. So he hires the girl, the main female character, who comes into this job, or comes into the story. And it is a dual perspective book. It is a weird situation just because they both are attracted to each other, but they both have issues with each other. His main issue with her is that she is attractive, and he kind of basically says she is distracting for him. So he kind of is overbearing and overly mean to her, just so he doesn't outwardly express that he's attracted to her. She doesn't like his personality and attitude and the way he acts towards her, but she's still physically attracted to him. So she has this thing where she'll contact her best friend maybe throughout the day, sometimes multiple times a day, through text and emails, basically telling her things that this guy has done. One day she accidentally sends an email that she meant to send to her friend to her boss, and is basically saying some of the things that he's done. And then she also mentioned something about him being attractive or something like that. So he ends up confronting her, and as you can expect, this ends up leading towards a romance. And honestly, this book was exactly what I was expecting it to be. This is one of those days I was up really early in the maybe 2-3 in the morning on a Saturday, and I couldn't sleep. and I was just scrolling through, found a free ebook, and I just went with this one. And I got through this book in a day. It was exactly what I was expecting, nothing more, nothing less. So that's why I gave this one a 3 out of 5 stars. The next one is Fairytale Christmas by Mary DiStefano. I received this one for a review from the author. This is a novella, so it was only about 100 pages, and we're like halfway through December when I'm filming this. So I don't remember all the details, but I'm pretty sure it is like a retelling on some Irish fairy tales and folklore. But I gave this one a 3 out of 5 stars because I enjoyed the story, but I felt like it was just the basis of a story, and I probably felt like that because, like I said, it was only 100 pages. But I felt like this could have been an exceptional book. Things moved too fast. I didn't have a chance to connect to any of the characters. I was kind of confused through half of the story because I'm like, what's going on? And by the time I was starting to figure out what was going on, we moved to something else. So it was, like I said, it was kind of all over the place. I felt like it was a nice basis of a story, but I felt like it just definitely needed more time and more work, and I really think it would have been a lot better as a full-length novel. And the last book that I gave a 3 out of 5 stars to was Emergence by S.G.D. Singh. I believe that's how you say the author's name. And this was another book that I received for a review from the author. It follows this girl who is living in Miami with her grandfather, and one day he returns home and he has been attacked, and he basically is like, you're gonna go off to India with some family that we have there, and you'll know why you're there once you get there. And that's pretty much all the information he gives her. So she goes there and ends up finding out that there is like this secret world of people who fight off these monsters and stuff. So basically, think of it, I haven't read the series, but from what I know about it, it is like the Mortal Instruments. I feel like this was another good book. It had a lot of potential, but I felt like some things let me down just because a big thing was I felt like the pacing was off. We spent a lot of time on a lot of details that I didn't feel like were important, or after the first time that it was brought up, I felt like it didn't need to be brought up again. I felt like all the action scenes weren't as long as they should have been. A lot of the training scenes and fighting scenes and, you know, outside of when they're like actually putting training to use was the most exciting part of it, and it didn't have as much page space as, say, them talking about the different types of food that they was being served, or the type of spices that was used, and a certain healing process. I wish that certain parts are focused on more than other parts that were within this book. Like I said at the beginning of this whole little discussion, this book had a lot of potential, but it didn't meet my expectations that I went into this expecting. So yeah, that's the last of the books I gave a 3 out of 5 stars. The next set of books that I have to talk about are the ones that I gave 3.5 out of 5 stars. So I have 2 of these, but I don't have a specific order, so once again I'll talk about them in the order that I finished them. So the first one that I have that I gave a 3.5 stars to was The Learning Hours by Sarah Ney, and I believe this is the 3rd book. It's the 3rd or the 4th book in the How to Date a Douchebag series. So this is another one of those books that has dual perspectives. We follow a guy who has transferred schools on a wrestling scholarship, and now he is on the wrestling team with a bunch of his rivals. And then we follow this girl who goes to the school that this guy has transferred to. Basically how these two get together is his teammates are kind of hazing him, and they put out this poster, and basically like, our teammate needs to get laid. They put his picture and his phone number and kind of just put it around the campus, and the girl ends up texting him because of this, and she kind of does it as a joke, and I guess the story kind of takes off from there. I had mixed opinions about this, but I listened to this one on Audible for review, and I'm really glad that I did that because it was really easy to get through, and it's the first romance book I've ever listened to on Audible, so I think that was pretty interesting. Like I said, I have mixed opinions about this because I really liked seeing the way the two characters really got to know each other, how to, you know, how they were talking and really got to know each other throughout the book, especially considering where the story started and how the two characters were. But I did have some reservations, mainly towards the female character. For the first time ever, I feel like this guy character, he was so sweet and I just absolutely loved him. But the girl, she was one of those people who was just like, she's like, I know I'm attractive and I don't have any problem with people who realize that, you know, they're attractive. But my problem with her was that she was just like, basically using her attractiveness to say I'm too good, like I know I'm too good for these people, or she's just like, I shouldn't be with him because he's below me, basically. And that's what this character was saying. Like, it was multiple times throughout this book where she was just like, yeah, no, I'm not gonna talk to him, I'm not gonna help him out because I'm too good for him, I look too good to even associate with him. And she, like I said, she contacts him as a joke. And she was like, she feels sorry for him, but she basically does it as a joke. She kind of helped herself throughout the book, but she kept doing it. It was like more than once, and it was done several times throughout. And it was just, that really irritated me, and that's a big reason why I couldn't give it as high as a rating. And also, the guy's teammates, they, like, I know guys could be immature, but these guys in this book, I've never met anybody who I feel like would do some of the stuff that they did. And the next book that I gave a 3.5 stars to was Wicked Torture by Jay Kenner. And at the start of this book, we are following this guy who has really thrown himself into his tech career, basically because I think it was about 10 years ago, his wife and daughter had got kidnapped, and they found the body of his daughter but not the body of his wife. So he has kind of been torturing himself for the past, however, I think it was 10 years because of this. So he's kind of stuck in this one place in his life. He ends up going to this club after another failed date, and there is this girl opening up for this band, and she's a really good singer, and then he realizes that it's actually someone he used to date. Basically, as you can expect, the two of them kind of start talking to each other again, and things kind of take off from there, and you realize that this story between them is a little bit more complicated than you initially think it is. I'm not really going to get into that because I felt like that was a really big twist that I wasn't expecting. I appreciated that the story, like with this story, the two characters didn't automatically get back together as soon as they met each other again. It took them a while to learn to trust each other, and I really appreciated that. So the next section of books is the ones that I gave a 4 out of 5 stars to. The first one of those was Hooking Up by Helena Hunting. At the beginning of this book, the main female character has just gotten married, and at her reception over the PA system, she hears her recent husband getting a blowjob from someone else. And it's like over the, like I said, the PA system, so everybody at the reception hears it. And as you can expect, things just kind of go crazy from there. So she decides to go on her honeymoon alone, and the main male character is actually, I believe, the cousin of the guy that the main female character just got married to. But he actually ends up going on a business trip to the same vacation that she goes on her honeymoon to. So, you know, things kind of take off from there, and I will say that this story is more involved than just that, and it doesn't just kind of start and stop in the vacation that they went to in Bora Bora. I really enjoyed this story. The premise of it, that's what kind of drew me into the story, but it was so much more than that, and I just really enjoyed it. And I really like seeing the progression of this relationship. The next one that I read is Bountiful by Serena Bowen, and this is the 4th book in the True North series. The main girl in this book, she lives in this small town, and she is basically managing this bar that is owned by her family. And this guy has come into town. He has been in the town for maybe about a few weeks, and he notices her because he keeps coming to this bar, and they end up eventually getting together, and he leaves. And then we kind of fast forward, I think like a year or two later, and he comes back to the town, and he finds out that she has had his baby. And the story kind of takes off from there, because he is once again in this town on vacation, and there is a lot more going on, and they both have their separate lives that they have to figure out if they want to get together, and if they do want to merge their lives together, how they're actually going to do that. I had my in and out moments with this. Mainly, I think my biggest moment where I was like, was like his reaction to finding out that he had a baby, because it was just like, I get the shock of it, but it was almost just like, yeah, I don't know if I want to do this, but it was weird. But I ended up overcoming that initial, like, I don't know if I'm gonna like this, because of the way this guy reacted. But it was another one I just really enjoyed the way it was handled. I feel like this book was really realistic, and the reactions and the actions after that, after everything was all figured out. And the last book that I read that I gave a 4 out of 5 stars to was Man Hands by Serena Bowen and Tanya Eby. I'm not really sure how you say that. This one actually follows this girl who just actually recently got divorced, and her parents are taking her out to this party in order to kind of just get, just let go and kind of just get out there again. So once they get to this party, her husband is actually there with a girl who is she basically says it's like a younger version of me, a younger, better looking version of me. So she is about to start freaking out, and her friend is like, look, you're gonna go, you're gonna turn around, you're gonna look at the first guy you see, and the first guy who makes eye contact with you, you're gonna go and kiss him or something like that. And she ends up going through with it. And it's kind of a funny, I think this is like another kind of a rom-com type of book. And yeah, she ends up doing it, and the story kind of takes off from there. But the guy ends up like, I need to find out who this girl was, and they end up meeting again, and things kind of develop from there, and the story moves forward from there. This was definitely not the most realistic story ever, but this was another really mature romance, and I felt like some things were blown out of proportion, but I felt like it was still handled really well. And like I said, another one I really enjoyed, and I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. So the last book that I have to talk about is the only physical copy book that I actually read this month, and it was my highest rated book, and that was Before She Ignites by Jody Meadows, and I gave this one a 4.5 out of 5 stars. This one follows this girl named Mirror, and when she was born, there was a peace treaty named after her, and she is known across the land of Fallen Isles as the Hope Bearer. But then she finds out some secrets about this government that she is basically serving, and they send her to prison for it. I just ended up enjoying this way more than I thought I would. I feel like we just got to see so much of the fantasy world. But not only that, I really enjoyed, there's a couple of things that I really enjoyed. One, I probably wouldn't have noticed it really if I wasn't buddy reading this one. I buddy read this with Bethany from Beautifully Bookish Bethany. I'll link it down below so you guys go to check her out. But I wouldn't have noticed this if she didn't bring it up. But the diversity in this book, I wouldn't have noticed it personally, just because I automatically assume out of every book that I read that the characters are people of color, just because that is what I'm used to seeing that's the people that I'm used to being around. So I automatically assume that it is people of color, unless it's like really thrown out there like, no, this is what this person looks like. But these people actually were people of color, and it wasn't made a big deal, and the story wasn't focused on these characters being people of color just because everyone was. And I really enjoyed that, because I feel like I don't really get to see that in books unless I'm reading a book by a person of color. The second thing that I really enjoyed about this was the main character's anxiety. I believe she has OCD. It's not like strictly stated that she does have OCD, but she obsessively counts, and like when she can't calm herself down with her counting, she like gets really anxious to the point where it like stops her from being able to do anything sometimes. And I think it was like at least twice in this book she passed out because she couldn't calm herself down. And I thought that was a really interesting part of this, especially considering in a certain point of this book she didn't have her medication, so she had to learn to be able to, you know, deal with her anxiety and learn how to live with it because she didn't have any other way of controlling it. It just, this book was so good. This is probably, I mean, this is one of my favorite books of the year. It was so good, and I think this is something that people should read if, you know, if you think you will be interested in this plot line. It just is so good, and I can't wait to see where the rest of the series goes. Those are all the books that I read in November. I can't really hold anything up because this is the only book that I have physically that I read in November. But if you guys read any of these books, let me know what you thought about them. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys again in the next one. Bye.